Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. It is Tish with Naptime Creations, and today we're going to be doing a resin piece. So I'm going to show you how to do that step by step. Let's get started. So today we are using Stone Coat Countertops resin, and I'm going to mix it in this measuring cup that I got from the dollar store. These are great for measuring out resin. This is your parts A and B. I pour my part B in first, and I sped this up just so you didn't have to watch me pour slowly into my cup. But I made about 8 ounces of resin for this, so I went in with 4 ounces of my part B and 4 ounces of my part A. And then I just mix those up for 3 minutes. If you guys want to skip all the mixing and all those steps, you can jump ahead to 5 minutes. When you pour your part A into the cup, you're going to notice it's a whole lot thicker than the part B. That's why I like to pour the part A into the part B. It kind of mixes it up a little bit. And it's okay to stir vigorously when you're mixing this stuff up because you're going to hit it with a heat gun and a torch, and that's going to pop all those bubbles anyway. But I know it's kind of like, oh my gosh, when you look in that cup, there's a lot of bubbles, but don't worry, they'll all get popped in the end. And when you're mixing your resin, be sure to scrape the sides of your cup, the bottom, and your popsicle stick or whatever you're using to stir. So now what I'm doing is I'm just taking my mixed up resin and I'm pouring it into individual cups so I can add my epoxy pastes later. So now what I'm doing is I'm going to take some of my clear resin and put it on the canvas. I forgot to mention earlier, I painted this 12 by 12 canvas silver, but you could paint it whatever color you want. I'm just putting a clear thin layer of resin on there just so when I put my colors on, it'll flow easy and it'll move nicely on the canvas. Resin only will want to move on top of resin. It'll only want to go where resin's been before. So if you do this, it'll help you kind of move your resin easier with the heat gun. So then you just take your hand and your fingers with your gloves on, of course, and rub that clear resin all over the canvas there. Make sure you get the sides and the top. I wasn't happy with the amount of clear resin that I put on there, so I'm adding a little bit more, and then I'm going to spread it out with my fingers again. Now I'm going to go in with my Stone Coat Countertops white base tint, and I put mine in this hydrogen peroxide bottle. And when I add it to the clear resin, I just like to count to 3. Just 1, 2, 3. And be sure to shake it up really good before you add it. And once you start stirring it, you'll notice it'll turn nice and opaque really quickly. With this stuff, you do not need a lot. A little bit goes a long way, and you don't want to add too much, otherwise it's going to blow your cells out and they're not going to turn out good. You can always go back and add more later, so just add a little at first. Now I'm going in with Nebula Violet by Resin. This is a really pretty purple, and it's very sparkly. I was trying to show the sparkle on there. So I just mix this up a little bit and take a little glob on the end of my popsicle stick. Not too much. That's like about a pea size amount. And in my cup, I have about 2.5 ounces of clear resin. And then you just mix that up nice and good. Make sure you get the sides of the cup and the bottom of the cup and your popsicle stick. Scrape it off the side of your cup to kind of make sure everything gets mixed in well. Now I'm going in with the Color Obsession Aquamarine. This is a beautiful teal color. And make sure when you add it in, you stir it up really good. Get the sides and your popsicle stick. Now I'm going to grab 2 mica powders, Stone Coat's Violet Pearl and a light purple from Resin. And these you want to go away from your workstation to add them to your cups of resin, just because the mica powder is so fine, it just kind of poofs into the air and you don't want it getting all over your workstation and what you're working on. Now I'm just mixing up the violet pearl. When you start mixing a mica powder, you want to start out slow and then you can mix it faster once it gets incorporated. This violet pearl is so pretty, you guys. Oh my gosh. It reminds me of mother of pearl. It's gorgeous. We're almost ready to start pouring, but next thing you're going to want to do is grab your heat gun, point it away from your piece, and turn it on for about 5-10 seconds. Just blow any of the dust bunnies that may be in there. And then you can go over the piece and pop any little bubbles or take out any debris that might have fallen in there. Like for me in this case, I think it's a little piece of paper towel I'm trying to dig out with my tweezers. Now I'm just going to double check and make sure there's no other debris or particles stuck on top of my canvas before I start pouring. So the first color I'm going in with is the Nebula Violet, and I'm making a C. You can see that. It's just a big, chunky letter C. I was going to go in with the light purple mica powder, but I couldn't get it to mix up all the way for some odd reason, so I went ahead and skipped using that one on this piece. I don't know, there was just little kind of chunks in it, so I've said forget it. So I grabbed the teal and then I put that inside the C, right along the edge of where I put the Nebula Violet. Now I'm going in with my Violet Pearl and I'm going to try to make a line kind of in between the blue and the purple just to kind of give it a nice little in-between color. And I'm also taking the Violet Pearl and going along the outside of the C. Now I'm going to grab the Stone Coat Countertops white base tint and pour that all in the middle of the area of the C that isn't covered with any color yet. Now I'm going to take Stone Coat's white base tint and go around the C and kind of just give it a nice white outline. Now I'm going back in with the Nebula Violet and just filling in the top left-hand corner or any spots where the silver canvas is popping through. Same thing with the teal now. I'm going to grab that one and fill in any other spots where the silver canvas is showing. I'm almost ready to grab the heat gun and start moving my colors around, but I have to grab my paper towel with alcohol on it and wipe my hands off first because I had resin on my hands. But you guys don't want to do this. You're going to want to use a shirt or something cotton because I realized that the fibers of the paper towels were getting into my artwork and that's where all the debris was coming from. So don't use paper towels. Now I'm just taking my heat gun on the low setting and I'm just going over the piece, popping any bubbles, just kind of warming up the resin nice and easy, not staying on one spot too long, moving my heat gun nice and even over the entire piece. Now I turned my heat gun up to the high setting and I'm going to start blowing the paint around, and you can see you can grab the purple and push it up over the blue and push the blue onto the white. So I just went around the canvas and did this in a few spots. I was just really trying to break up any harsh lines, and I also wanted to push the purple over the blue and the white. When you take your colors and you run them over that Stone Coat white, that's what's going to give you the cells. So now I'm just taking my heat gun and blowing out any harsh lines, trying to make sure that there's no funky squiggly lines going on in there, and it looks like I'm touching the resin, but I'm not. My heat gun is just right above the resin. You don't want to dip your heat gun in the resin. That would just be messy. Now what I'm going to do is pick up my canvas and do a super tilt. So you can see I'm just going to pick it up and start tilting it around, making sure that all the spaces are covered and there's no silver canvas showing through. And when you're tilting your canvas, try not to have your resin flow off the edge of your canvas at this point, because once it starts doing that, it's going to want to keep flowing off. So try not to have your resin flow off of the canvas. See, I'm almost making it flow off, but then I tilt it back the other way to make it stay on the canvas. So I'm all done tilting the canvas. Now I'm just going to set it back down on my risers that have my canvas standing up off of my workspace. And the risers I'm using right now are just little individual plastic ice cream cups. Now I'm just taking my tweezers and making sure I grab any dust or debris that may have landed in the piece when I was working on it. And you're also going to see my head pop in there. Shout out to my gray hair. So now I'm just taking my finger and grabbing any of the extra that dripped down off the canvas and putting it on the sides. You're going to want to make sure that all your edges are nice and covered, and you can just, dip your finger in the resin on the side there and scoop it up and stick it on the canvas. It's really easy to do. Now I'm going in with my purple, and I'm just noticing on the side here I didn't get a lot of coverage, so I'm just taking my finger and just kind of rubbing that violet nebula right there on the side where I didn't really get any resin. I wasn't happy with how the purple was kind of all over on the side there, so I just picked up the canvas, and I'm going to tilt the white off a little bit. See, I just tipped the white off a little bit there and then turned it back over the other way where the white was originally. Now I'm just going in with my torch and making sure that I pop any bubbles that may have shown up. And when you go in with your torch, make sure you point it away from your piece, just like with the heat gun, to get any dust boogers out of there. Here's a little close-up. This was right after I got done pouring. And this is what she looks like all cured 2 days later. What do you guys think? I like that purple and the teal together. They made some really cool cells. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. If you have any questions, leave them down below, and we'll see you next week for a new video. I appreciate you guys so much. Thanks again.